Les Miserables was originally a historical novel written by Victor Hugo in 1862. Through a cast of fictional characters, it examines the June Rebellion of post-Napoleon Paris, which Hugo actually survived. I googled it. Over 100 years later, French writers Balbiol and Schomburg thought, who reads books anymore? They decided it was high time to turn this book into a musical! Instead of writing songs for crucial moments in the story, the team decided to write songs for every single moment in the story. They also signed a pact in blood that the musical must be totally devoid of irony. Somehow this didn't sound like a total drag to producer Cameron Mackintosh, who saw it not as a musical but as an ideal opportunity for total world domination. An original illustration from the novel was used as the show's logo, and before anyone realized, this sketch of a sad-looking little French girl covered in dirt was plastered on every cab in New York City. Not to mention every mug and t-shirt tourists brought home after seeing that French musical that my friend Marge from HR told me about. The one that won all those Emmys. Over time, that dirty French girl became the McDonald's arches of musical theater, and when the rights became available, productions of Les Mis were done more often than crystal meth. At one point, NASA even theorized that the sad dirty French girl was actually the face on the moon. Despite international success, Cameron Mackintosh knew there was still one thing left to do to achieve total world domination. Produce the Les Mis movie. The movie represents the first time actors were recorded singing live on set instead of lip-syncing to pre-recorded tracks. This freed them to make new acting choices each take. Like for one, you could look sad, and for the next, you could look sadder. The sound team deserves an Oscar ASAP because this movie has so much singing. 157 minutes of singing, to be exact. Take it from someone who could sing about toothpaste. Nothing is worth singing about for 157 minutes. I don't care how French you are. So basically, the movie goes like this. Hugh Wolverine Jackman plays the hero Jean Valjean, while Russell Gladiator Crowe plays bad cop Javert. They have beef because Wolverine violated parole after stealing a loaf of bread, and Gladiator isn't happy about it. In fact, Gladiator's grudge over a loaf of bread is their central conflict for pretty much the entire story. As my friend Danielle from Jersey would say, it's a freaking loaf of bread, get a freaking life. Meanwhile, Anne Catwoman Hathaway can't support her daughter when she loses her job, so she sells her well-conditioned hair and prostitutes herself before singing about the whole ordeal. I dreamed that I would cut my hair. I dreamed that I would win an Oscar. Catwoman dies shortly thereafter. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, everyone dies. Wolverine retrieves Catwoman's child to raise her himself. She's been busy sweeping floors for Helena Bonham Carter, who delivers an LOL performance of Mrs. Lovett. Oh, sorry, I meant Mrs. Lovett. Fast forward! The story's now kinda sort of about Marius and his scholar buddies, who are way less dirty than everyone else. I imagine they smell nice, too. They're plotting a movement similar to Occupy Wall Street in that I'm not really sure what their focus is or why I'm supposed to pay attention. Marius loves telling his very dirty BFF Eponine about his love for Cosette, Catwoman's baby all grown up. Of course, Marius should just keep his mouth shut to wake up and realize that Eponine is totally in love with him, thinks about him every waking second, has always and will always be there to do anything for him, even if he's stomping on her heart the whole time. I'm okay. Since Marius is totally clueless, Eponine wants to have all his babies, he asks her to do him a solid and find out where Cosette lives. When Marius and Eponine find Cosette, so does Gladiator, so Wolverine's like, peace! This is terrible for Cosette because she has to get it in with Marius to prove she's not a total homeschooled freak! She gives Eponine a note for Marius. Dearest Marius, I just met you, and this is crazy, but we are fleeing, so come find me, maybe? Eponine releases her stress like any lovesick white girl, by cry-belting and walking through the rain. YOLO! There's so much to keep track of at this point, you start to realize you barely know who any of these people are right when they all start singing at the same time. And no, there isn't an intermission, so spike your fountain beverage. Hard. The rebel forces build a barricade of household furniture to keep someone from something. They discover Gladiator as a mole, so when Wolverine shows up behind the barricade, he's assigned the task of bumping off Gladiator. Of course he doesn't, because that would put Gladiator out of his misery, and it's called The Miserable. Wolverine frees him, and they run into each other later in the sewer. It's a long story. After so many encounters with Wolverine, Gladiator realizes that loaf of bread is never coming back, so he decides to go hang out with Catwoman, if you catch my drift. Oh, and by the way, Eponine's been dead for a while now. Actually, pretty much all of the rebels drop like flies. Come on, a bunch of teenagers standing on a pile of furniture for God knows why? Their chances of success were as likely as the Jets going to the Super Bowl. Post-rebellion, film, Cosette and Marius finally get married, but before they can get it in, they go find Wolverine in a convent because now it's his turn to die. Could be because he's ill from trekking through a sewer, but most likely he's just exhausted. He's been singing for 157 minutes. Cosette, Marius, and Wolverine sing and sing and sing until finally Catwoman shows up from the great beyond, goes up to Wolverine and says, "Hey, let's go get some Golden Globes." And that's pretty much it. The film was originally slated to release on the 21st to coincide with the end of civilization, but once the team realized the world wasn't going to end, they decided for the next best date: Christmas! Les Mis is a faithful adaptation with beautiful cinematography and made $18.2 million on its first day in movie theaters, so it's unlikely that 16-year-old girls are going to stop singing "On My Own" anytime soon. Either way, I just don't get it. I guess at the end of the day, it's really just a moving story about... well, it's about... maybe I should read the book. Ma, where the hell is my Kindle?